Hello friends, myself Dr. Nidhi Darbari on My Education Treasure, and today I am going to explain about Shruti literature. Vedic literature is broadly divided into two categories, Shruti and Smriti. Both categories have many religious and philosophical literature. Shruti literature. Shruti is a word in Sanskrit that literally means what is heard in Hinduism and is canonical, consisting of revelation and unquestionable too, and is considered eternal. Text contained in Shruti is what has been revealed by God Himself. Thus, it is not open to judgment or evaluation. Shruti works are considered to have been heard and transmitted by early sages as contrasted to Smriti or that which is remembered by ordinary human beings. The four Vedas, along with their Brahmanas, 108 Upanishads, and the Aranyakas, are Shruti text. Vedas believe in the concept of one God and one world. God is one and only one, omniscient, omnipotent, and ever present. There are three entities in this universe: God, soul, and matter. Ultimate aim of life is to obtain salvation, moksha, in union with God. The law of karma is an important teaching of Vedas. This universe is formed by God. The theory of rebirth and immortality of soul. Universe is real, universal fraternity should be promoted. Knowledge of truth should be acquired and dissipated. Justice should be done to all creatures and we should live in peace and harmony. Vedas was the basic education during those days. The Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the oldest among all Vedas. It was compiled between 1500 BC to 1000 BC. It is the foundation of all Vedic literature. The Rig Veda contains 1028 hymns or sukta and supplemented by 11 others called Valakalyas, which are divided into 10 mandals and sometimes into ashtak. Its 1028 hymns are divided into 10,522 verses. It is divided into books, mandals or chapters. Mandal 2 to 7 are considered to be the earliest of all composition. The number of verses varies from hymn to hymn. It incorporates a variety of subjects having important bearing on our daily life as householders engaged in such other profession, polity and religion. There are 5 divisions of Rig Veda, namely Sakala, Baskala, Asvalyana, Sankhyana, and Mandukya. Rishis who were expert in Rig Veda are called Hotra or Hotri. These are recited at the time of sacrificial rites and other rituals with utmost devotion. Rig Veda is also known as First Testament of mankind. It is also says that current birth depends upon previous births. The Rishi family of Angira has composed 35% of the hymns and the Kanva family composed around 25%. Indra is the chief deity, king of kingdom of heaven, cited in the hymns of Rigveda. The sky god Varun, the fire god Agni, and the sun god Surya were some of the other chief deities mentioned in various hymns of Rigveda. There is lot of emphasis on Lord Shiva, but Lord Vishnu, who is one of the three Murti of Hindu pantheon of God, is cited as minor deity according to the Rigveda. Yajurved. The Yajurved is the Vedic collection of sacrificial prayers or yajus of the Advaryu priests. The Yajurved prescribes the procedures to be adopted at the time of performing different sacrifices. Yajus means sacrificial formula and Yajurved is the book of sacrificial prayers is a ritual text as it consists of various mantra for the purpose of recitation and rules to be observed at the time of sacrifice. It contains the rituals of the yagya. It is estimated to have been composed between 1400 and 1000 BC. It was the manual of the Advaryus. Advaryus were the people who prepared the ground and the altar, offered the sacrificial victim, and poured out the libations. There are two main divisions or texts of the Yajurved: White or Shukla Yajurved or Vajasneyi. Madhyandin and Kanva are two existing versions. The Samhita in the Shukla Yajurved is called the Vajasneyi Samhita. Out of 16, only two recensions of the Shukla Yajurved have survived. Madhyandin and Kanva both are nearly same except for minor differences. Black or Krishna Yajurveda, that is Tattreyi, Kathaka, Maitrayani and Kapisthala, are existing four versions. It is a collection of short magic spells used by certain class of priests at the time of sacrifices. This implies that the Krishna Yajurved includes the Brahman prose discussions within the Samhita, while the Shukla Yajurved has separate Brahman text, the Shatpat Brahman. The term black implies the unarranged collection of verses in contrast to the white, which implies the well arranged and clear Yajurveda. In contrast to the first two, Rig Ved and Samved, which are entirely in verse, this one is in both verse and prose. Samved. The Samved, derived from the root saman, that is melody, is a collection of melodies, and it contains the rhythmic compilation of hymns of Rig Ved. The Samved, or the Veda of the holy songs, rank third in the usual order of enumeration of the Vedas, but in sanctity and liturgical importance it is next to the Rig Ved. It contains hymns of the devotion taken mostly from Rig Ved. Also called the Book of Chants, the origin of Indian music is traced to it. It is also called as the Book of Praise or Storehouse of Knowledge of Chants. It is a mixture of poetry and verse. Samved was compiled between 1000 BC to 600 BC. The Samved is important in tracing the history of Indian music. The Samved consists of 1549 unique verses taken from Rig Ved, except for 75 which are new. Its Samhita or metrical portion consists chiefly of hymns to be chanted by the Udgatra priest at the performance of any sacrifice in which the juice of the soma plant is mixed with milk and other ingredients and offered to various deities. It has three shakhas or recensions: the Kathuma, Panchvish Brahman, Jaiminiya Brahman, Ravayaniya, Shadvish Brahman. Gandharv Ved is Samved's Upved, is a technical treatise on music, dance and drama. Bharat Natya Shastra is based upon Gandharv Ved. There is no exact date when the compilation of the Samved hymns was done, nor as to who has composed it. It was deemed unnecessary in the early times when the Aryans first invaded India, but was required for guidance and use after their expansion and settlement in their new homes. Atharvaved. Atharvaved is entirely different from the other three Ved and is chronologically the last of the four. For a very long time, it was not included in the category of Vedas. It is important and interesting as it describes the popular belief and superstitions of the humble folk. It contains the magic spells and inverses to ward off evil spirits. It was compiled between 1000 to 600 BC. Atharvan was a legendary rishi and is considered to have sung the Atharvaved. He is also said to have first instituted the fire sacrifice or yagya. It is also called as Brahmaved. It is divided into 20 books cants and has 711 hymns and a collection of 5987 mantra. Most of these hymns are used to ward off the evil spirits. The Atharvaved is composed in Vedic Sanskrit. Atharvaved was mainly composed by two groups of rishis known as Atharvans and Angiras. Hence, its oldest name is Atharvangiras. There are two surviving dissensions or shakhas known as Sonakya and Pepalda. There are three Upanishad, Prashna, Mundaka, and Mandukya. Satyamev Jayate, India's motto, come from Mundaka Upanishad. Book 20 contains the largest number of verses, that is 158, and Book 17 has only 103 verses. It primarily deals with medical science. The Brahmins are the second source of philosophical thought. Brahmins are the first specimen of praise in the world. These are among the earliest work in Sanskrit and are primarily in the nature of explanation or discussion on the various sacrifices, rituals and mantra along with their mystic meanings. The Brahmans are the prose text which explain the hymns in the Vedas, give explanation and application and related stories of their origin, and are also the classification of Sanskrit texts that are embedded within each Veda, incorporating myths and legends to explain and instruct Brahmans on the performance of Vedic rituals. Each Veda has one or more of its own Brahmans, and each Brahman is generally associated with a particular Shakha or Vedic school. These Brahmans, in fact, are the elaborate commentaries on the various hymns in Samhita. They also have some stories related to certain persons related to Vedic text. In addition to explaining the symbolism and meaning of the Samhita, Brahman literature also expounds scientific knowledge of the Vedic period, including observational astronomy and particularly in relation to altar construction at this geometry. The Shukla Yajurveda is appended with Shatpat Brahman, which recommends 100 sacred paths, Shatpat. The Shatpat Brahman, the most exhaustive and important of all the Brahmans, point out the progress of culture from Kuru Panchal to Videha. Shatpat Brahman is voluminous work providing information about theology, geography, history, philosophy, and almost all aspects of life and society of the period. The sacrifice which regulate relationship between man and God is mechanical operation is very much emphasized here. Less than 20 Brahmans are currently extant, as most have been lost or destroyed. Dating of the final codification of the Brahmans and associated Vedic text is controversial, as they were likely recorded after several centuries of oral transmission. The oldest Brahman is dated to about 900 BC, while the youngest is dated to around 700 BC. Divergent in nature, some Brahmans also contain mystical and philosophical material that constitute Aranyakas and Upanishads. The two Brahmans attached and related to the Rig Veda are Aitreya Brahman and Kausitaki Brahman. They explain the meaning of sacrifice and methods of performing them. These were composed by Hotri priests or invokers. Aranyakas. The Aranyakas were written in forest and are called forest books. The word Aranyaka means the forest. Aranyakas are philosophy written mainly for hermits and students living in the jungles. They are appendices or concluding portion to Brahman. The Aranyakas deal with spiritual life, mysticism and philosophy, and don't lay much emphasis on rites, rituals, and sacrifices. They are in fact opposed to sacrifices, and many of the early rituals and lay emphasis on meditation and moral virtues. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please like the video to motivate me, share it for others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. They also provide the details of the rishis who lived in the jungles. They were meant for elderly people as they had passed out of the Grihast ashram. A strict code of secrecy was maintained over the Aranyakas as it was believed that the contents would spell danger if taught to the uninitiated, and hence they were to be studied in the forest. They form the natural transition of the Upanishad. The philosophical portion of the Brahmanas have been separated for use and guidance of the hermits living in the jungle. They form a bridge between karma marg, way of work that talk about rituals, sacrifices, which was the sole concern of the Brahman, and the Gyan marg, a way of knowledge that talk about knowledge and spirituality, which the Upanishads advocated. In other words, Aranyakas are focused on moral science and philosophy. There are two Aranyakas, Chandayog Aranyaka and Jaiminiya Aranyaka. Chandayog Aranyaka has Chandayog Upanishad and Jaiminiya Aranyaka has Jaiminiya Upanishad. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.